Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that someone quietly withdrew money from your bank account overnight. Not hundreds of dollars, not thousands, everything. You'd panic. You'd call your bank. You'd check every transaction. You'd want to know exactly where your money went. But something far more valuable disappears from your life every single day. And almost nobody notices. It isn't your salary. It isn't your investments. It isn't your house. In fact, no billionaire on earth can buy more of it. No government can print it. No bank can lend it. Once it's gone forever. Here's the strange part. Most people spend years learning how to earn more money. They study investing. They negotiate salaries. They chase promotions. They compare stocks. But almost nobody learns how to protect the one asset that makes every dollar possible in the first place. Time. Not because it sounds philosophical, because it's financial. Every dollar you've ever earned was purchased with time. Every investment you've ever made required time. Every fortune ever built was created by exchanging time for value. And if you don't understand that relationship, you'll spend your entire life trying to make more money while unknowingly wasting the very thing that creates wealth. Today, we're going to look at time the way investors look at money, because once you see it through that lens, you'll never make financial decisions the same way again. Let's start with a question. What is the most expensive purchase you've ever made? Maybe it was a home, a new car, college tuition, starting a business. Now imagine adding something to the receipt that nobody ever calculates. The years it took to pay for it. That changes everything. A $40,000 car isn't just $40,000. If it took 2 years of your working life to afford it, its real price was 2 years. $1 million home isn't just $1 million. It's thousands of mornings waking up early, thousands of commutes, thousands of meetings, thousands of hours you'll never get back. Money is simply the receipt. Time is the actual payment. And that's where most people make their biggest financial mistake. They measure cost in dollars. Wealthy people often measure cost in years. That's a completely different way of thinking. And it changes almost every financial decision you'll ever make. Think about two people. The first earns $250,000 a year. The second earns $120,000. Most people instantly assume the first person is wealthier. But what if the first works 80 hours every week, sleeps 5 hours a night, rarely sees family, and spends weekends answering emails? Meanwhile, the second works 35 hours a week, exercises daily, has dinner with family almost every night, and still invests consistently for retirement. Who's actually richer? The answer depends on what currency you value, money or life. This doesn't mean money doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Money buys options. It reduces stress. It creates freedom. But only if it doesn't quietly consume the very freedom you're trying to purchase. That's one of the biggest paradoxes in personal finance. Sometimes people sacrifice today, trying to build a better tomorrow, only to discover they sacrifice too much of today along the way. There's another trap almost everyone falls into. It's called opportunity cost. Economists use this phrase all the time, but most people only apply it to money. In reality, opportunity cost governs your entire life. Every hour you spend scrolling social media, you aren't reading, learning, building a business, improving a skill, or spending time with people you love. Every unnecessary purchase costs more than the money itself. It also costs whatever that money could have become. Imagine investing just a few $100s every month over decades. Those dollars don't just sit there. They grow. They earn returns. Then those returns earn returns. That's the power of compound growth. Now flip that idea. Bad habits compound too. One impulse purchase doesn't make you broke. One skipped investment doesn't ruin retirement. One wasted evening doesn't destroy your future. But repeated thousands of times, small decisions quietly become your financial reality. People often look for one big breakthrough, the millionaire investment, the perfect business, the winning stock. Meanwhile, their daily habits are making those breakthroughs almost impossible. This is why the world's best investors think differently. Warren Buffett once described compound interest as one of the most powerful forces in investing. Most people understand that mathematically. Very few apply the same principle to their own lives. Knowledge compounds, skills compound, relationships compound, health compounds, trust compounds, your reputation compounds, and yes, money compounds. The challenge is that compounding feels invisible in the beginning. The first year doesn't look impressive. Neither does the second. That's why people quit too early. They mistake slow progress for no progress. Then suddenly, years later, what looked insignificant becomes extraordinary. That's how wealth is built. Not overnight, quietly, patiently, almost invisibly, until one day everyone calls you lucky. Now here's something most financial advice completely ignores. Your income matters, but your attention matters even more. Think about your day. How many times does something try to steal your focus? Notifications, advertisements, emails, breaking news, social media, streaming platforms. Every company is competing for one thing. Not your money, your attention. Because once they own your attention, your money usually follows. That's why some of the richest companies on earth don't sell products first. They sell distraction, then monetize your behavior. If your attention is constantly fragmented, building wealth becomes much harder because wealth usually requires sustained focus, learning valuable skills, making thoughtful decisions, being patient when everyone else is emotional. Attention is becoming one of the rarest financial assets in the modern world, and protecting it might be one of the highest return investments you'll ever make. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Most people think they'll start investing, start exercising, start that business, start learning, when life finally slows down. But life almost never slows down on its own. There's always another bill, another project, another responsibility, another excuse. The perfect time doesn't arrive. It's created, and the longer you wait, the more expensive waiting becomes. Because time has one feature, money doesn't. You can always earn more money. You can never earn more yesterday. This opening is designed to create multiple curiosity loops before delivering the core message, keeping viewers engaged while establishing the central idea. Time is the true currency behind wealth. Here's something most people don't realize. The wealthiest people in the world don't just think differently about money, they think differently about time. Because money can be replaced, time can't. That's why truly wealthy people aren't obsessed with making every dollar possible. They're obsessed with buying back their time. Think about it. Why does someone hire an assistant? Why does a business automate repetitive tasks? Why do successful entrepreneurs build systems instead of doing everything themselves? It's not because they're lazy, it's because they understand a simple truth. The ultimate luxury isn't a bigger house. It isn't a luxury car. It isn't flying first class. The ultimate luxury is owning your schedule. Being able to wake up and decide what your day looks like. That's real wealth. And ironically, it's the one thing many high-income earners never achieve. Imagine two people. One earns $500,000 every year. The other earns half that. On paper, the first person wins. But let's look closer. The first person checks emails before getting out of bed, works through lunch, misses birthdays, cancels vacations, sleeps with the phone next to the bed. Even while on vacation, they're still working. Now imagine the second person. Their income is lower, but they control their calendar. They can spend an afternoon with family without asking permission. They can take a month off without their finances collapsing. Which life would you choose? Most people answer with the first salary, until they imagine living that life. That's because we often confuse income with freedom. They're related, but they're not the same thing. The real goal isn't to earn the most money. It's to build a life where money gives you choices instead of taking them away. And that's where lifestyle inflation quietly enters the picture. It never announces itself. It doesn't show up wearing a warning sign. It feels like success. You get a raise, So you upgrade your apartment. Then comes the nicer car, the newer phone, the luxury vacation, the designer clothes. Nothing seems unreasonable on its own. After all, you earned it. But little by little, your monthly expenses begin rising at the same speed as your income. Suddenly, the raise that was supposed to create freedom creates dependence instead. Now you need the bigger paycheck. You need the overtime. You need the promotion, because your lifestyle has become too expensive to slow down. It's one of the biggest financial traps in modern life. Not because buying nice things is wrong, but because every fixed expense quietly locks away a piece of your future freedom. The wealthiest people understand something most people overlook. Every recurring expense isn't just a financial commitment, it's a future commitment of your time. Let's put this another way. Imagine your monthly expenses are $5,000. Now imagine you reduce them to $4,000. You didn't just save $1,000. You reduced the amount of time you must work every month just to survive. That's powerful. Financial freedom doesn't always come from making more. Sometimes, it comes from needing less. That's why many millionaires don't look wealthy. They're not trying to impress strangers. They're trying to own more of their future, because every unnecessary expense today can become tomorrow's obligation. Now let's talk about something even more valuable than money. Skills. If money disappeared tomorrow, what could you rebuild? That's the question wealthy people ask themselves. Markets crash, companies fail, technology changes, jobs disappear, but valuable skills travel with you everywhere. Communication, sales, leadership, problem solving, investing, negotiation, critical thinking. These assets don't sit inside a bank account. They sit inside you, and unlike material possessions, nobody can repossess them. That's why investing in yourself often produces the highest return you'll ever earn. A single new skill can increase your income for decades. One great decision can change your entire financial future. Yet most people spend more time researching their next smartphone than researching the skills that could double their earning potential. Think about that. Hours comparing cameras, minutes planning their career. This is also why patience is such a rare financial advantage. We're living in a world designed for instant rewards. Food arrives in minutes, movies start instantly, packages arrive tomorrow. Social media trains us to expect immediate results. But wealth doesn't work that way. Investing doesn't work that way. Businesses don't work that way. Careers don't work that way. The biggest rewards often belong to people willing to stay consistent long after everyone else gets bored. That's incredibly difficult, because progress is usually invisible until it suddenly isn't. It's like planting a tree. For years, it looks small, almost disappointing. Then one day, its roots have grown so deep that its growth accelerates. People only notice the tree. They never notice the years spent building the roots. Financial success works exactly the same way. The invisible years matter most. There's another lesson hidden inside investing. Volatility isn't always danger. Sometimes it's opportunity. When markets fall, fear spreads. Headlines become dramatic. People panic. History shows that markets have experienced crashes, recessions, and periods of severe uncertainty. Yet over long stretches, they have also recovered and grown. That doesn't guarantee future results, but it does remind us why experienced investors focus on long-term plans rather than reacting to every headline. Emotion tells you to run. Discipline tells you to think. And that principle applies far beyond investing. Life will always have uncertainty. Your career, your business, your finances. The people who build lasting wealth aren't those who never face setbacks. They're the ones who refuse to let temporary setbacks determine permanent decisions. That's a mindset, and mindsets compound just like investments do. Here's a question worth asking yourself. If someone handed you $10 million today, would you know what to do with it? Most people assume money solves financial problems. But history is filled with lottery winners, professional athletes, and entertainers. who earned fortunes, only to lose them. Why? Because money magnifies habits. Good habits become more powerful, bad habits become more expensive. Wealth doesn't automatically create discipline. Discipline usually creates wealth. That's why financial education matters so much. Not because it guarantees you'll become rich, but because it teaches you how to keep what you build. So before you chase the next raise, ask yourself a different question. What kind of life am I actually trying to buy? Because if you don't answer that, you might spend decades climbing a ladder, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall, and by then, the cost won't just be measured in dollars, it will be measured in years.